All right, well, I am going to get started today. We are going to be talking about the updates we did in December, the MIUI being delayed and what that means. Our reporting season is underway, and then George is going to give a more overview of how to do the W-2s and no tax on overtime in Pro Fund Accounting. We have everything all ready for that. Our next webinar will be February 2nd. And as I stated before, today's agenda is updates, and then the MIUI being delayed, the reporting season, and then the W-2s and no tax on overtime. All right, the updates that we've done in December for payroll, all the tax data is now finalized from both federal and states. It has been tested, so everything should be all set for your payrolls in 2026. In fact, I have done our cogitates payroll already in 2026, and they took out less federal in mine, so that was nice. We added a button at the top of the employees menu item called comp that will bring up the employees comp package menu item for the selected employee, so you can quickly navigate to that one. We did the same thing in employee comp package. We added a button that will bring up the employees menu item for that selected employee. We finalized the dollar amount in box 14 with the code OTP for overtime premium on the W-2s for the overtime premium as part of the OBBBA, which again, we'll cover that later. We updated the payroll calculation to use a single status with no deductions when no W-4 has been entered. So when you have a new employee, if they haven't entered in a W-4 yet, or there's no one on file, we'll just assume that it's single status and no deductions until you actually have until they actually have entered in the W-4 in Cogitate. We added a new payroll report. We updated another. So we added a payroll qualified overtime premium report. It'll show the calculated overtime premium for the selected employee, and it is grouped by SSN, not employee number. Well, again, that'll be part of our discussion on the W-2s. We added direct inventory time card recognition and new template and time card type parameters to the time card list for the My Work report. In payables, we added the 1099 NEC and MISC and 1096 forms for the tax year 2025. We added a button called MIE file to create the zip file required for the state of Michigan 1099 upload. This year, the state of Michigan is now requiring e-files, and again, later I will show how to get to the state of Michigan to upload your 1099s there. In call log, we added the ability to auto-complete the contact field in the call log menu item. So in our next update, we will have this feature in all drop-downs that have multiple columns. We'll have the ability to enter autocomplete. We just wanted to make sure that there wasn't it was working properly before we rolled it out for everything, so we didn't have to roll back everything. So everything seems to be working fine, so that'll be included in the next update. We go to payroll, in employees, we added a button at the top called comp. So I'm on employee number 8. And if I click on comp, it pulls up the employee comp package with employee number 8. And vice versa. If I go into employee comp package and I'm on employee 8, I click employee, it'll pop up with the employee mate. So you don't have to go back to the menu item. You can easily navigate between them. Maybe just click back and forth. It'll move back and forth from the screens for quick access to their deductions and that from there. So just wanted to point that out. So for reports, we're going to cover the one report. Time card list for My Work. We still entered in the dates. And we added this new template. You can select templates to include. There's other templates. And then you can also select time card types if you only want to include like account time card types. And you only want to include. This may take a minute to load the drop down. and click add. And I don't even know if I have any data. Oh, I don't have any data for 2026. I don't want to do a whole year. Let's just do 1 month. Nope, I don't have any date. I don't have any data for but you can now just do it by template and or time card type. So for the payables, 1099 forms, we now have 2025, the MASC, we can load the year, and you can do the print, email, the e-file for the state of Michigan, which is a zip file, and then the IRS CSV that they take. So then call log and call log, and the contact you now can remove and go and do the incremental searching along with being able to type it out. So that has been added. Yes. We'll be adding it everywhere else. So, like, for example, in inventory, I believe we have one in inventory. Yeah, like code, the vendor, it'll be re-added here. So in our next update, it'll include where you can just type in stuff. Like right now, you can't type anything. You'll be able to type in and it'll work just like call log. So that will be in the next update. All right. And now before I move on to MIUI, does anybody have any questions? All right, moving on to the MIUI. They have delayed the release of their new portal for the unemployment until 2026. It's supposed to be released sometime here in January, but again, if they delayed it once, they can always delay it again. You still use the MyWAM to file your fourth quarter UIA report. We added back the button to create the file, so now you can create the old file again. And the MIUI will use the MI login for business to access the service. And if you haven't already, you log into your account and request access. If you already have um, an account with that, you just go ahead and log in as before. So I'm just going to go back to ProFund accounting for a minute. And if I go to payroll, quarterly tax reports, state, we now have two different buttons, one for the new one and one for the old the current site. So you can go ahead and create whichever one you need. Eventually, once the state of Michigan finalizes and completely removes the MyWAM website, we will remove this button, but we'll just keep it up there until such a time as they do that. All right. Does anybody have any questions on the MIUI? It's basically um just a delay. So also, I don't know if I mentioned it last webinar, but I did test our upload file using the MIUI, and it did accept the file format, so I know that our file is at least in the correct format. All right, so now we get to the reporting season, which is underway. The SSA is already receiving 2025 W-2s. I submitted ours last week. I didn't check this morning, but they received them, but they hadn't accepted them yet. But I imagine they will. I don't know when they actually start accepting them. They really don't say. You generate the file in the W2 forms menu item. You don't change the name of the e-file. You use the SSA AccuAge to test the file for any validation errors. Again, I'm going to run through and show you all this. You submit the file to the SSA. The status will change from submitted to received when the SSA acknowledges it received your upload. So when you first upload the file and you check your transmission status, it'll say submitted, and then it'll say received when they've actually received your file. When the status says complete, that means the SSA has accepted your W-2s. As I've never received anything from them in the mail or email saying, "Hey, your W-2s have been accepted." So when it just says complete, the SSA, that means then the SSA has accepted them and you don't have anything more to do, unless, of course, you have to submit a correction. The taxpayer portal for the 1099s is set to go live sometime this week. I heard that Friday, January 9th is when you can access the taxpayer portal again. Again, as I say, it's always subject to change, but that is what I was told a month ago when the portal went down. The 1099 reporting process has not changed from last year. You can enter the 1099s online, or you can generate the CSV upload file using the 1099 forms menu item. For this tax season, the $600 threshold has not changed. For next year's tax season, so reporting season 2027, the threshold will be 2,000. I believe last webinar I said that the threshold was changing to 2,000, but it was not for reporting season 2026, it was for tax season 2026. So for tax season 2025, it is still the $600 threshold. If somebody makes over 600, then they'll need a 1099. So that is still in place. And then once you upload the CSV form, every form will go into an area called the unsubmitted forms area. From there, you can submit each form. You can select multiple forms or submit them individually. We personally recommend submitting one or two at a time because we have noticed if there's any errors in a batch, you must resubmit each 1099 in that batch. Maybe they changed that this year. Obviously, I won't know until the portal goes live, but every year prior, if there's even one accepted with errors, you have to resubmit the whole batch, is my understanding. You must upload each form type individually. You cannot combine all your NECs and MISCs into one file. And I'm not sure, actually, I've never tried it on their website in the unsubmitted forms area of just selecting everything and clicking submit. I don't think you can, but I've never actually tried it. So, but you can't combine your NECs and MISCs in one CSV upload. You have to do the NECs in one file and MISCs in one file. And then if you want any more information on the taxpayer portal, the IRS does have a nice document, publication 5717. It's on the IRS homepage, or you can always call us. We'd be more than happy to help you if you're having any issues trying to get your 1099s uploaded. So for the state of Michigan, I don't think it was last year because I got notification that this year they changed it. If you have 10 or more W-2s and 1099s combined, you must e-file both. You use the MTO to upload both your W-2s and 1099s. So once you log into MTO, access what's called the sales use and withholding tax service, go into the sidebar on the right-hand side where there'll be a tab called additional services. Select the W-2 and 1099 upload button. You click the upload button and select the tax year, which would be 2025 in this case, and file, then click upload to actually upload the file to the state. For the W-2, use the same file you submitted to the SSA to submit it to Michigan. For the 1099s, we created that new button that I showed called the MIE file. It'll create that zip file needed for the upload. So what's inside that zip file is the state copy of the 1099s in PDF forms. And you need to create one for each the NEC and if you have any MISC forms. The state will not send you any information if they are accepted or not, so you really won't know unless they send you like something in the mail that was like, we found an issue with your upload, please correct. So I have not gotten anything. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you that whole process. So first, you can go into Pro Fund Accounting. I'm going to go ahead and generate the quarterly tax forms for 2025. I believe they've already been calculated. I'm just going to type in a fake SSA user ID, caps lock on. Oh, gotta select. And I want this just to be on the desktop. Save for that. And then I want to go to my 1099 forms. Select the year, 2025, NEC. I only have one, that's fine. And I want to create the MIE file. I'm going to put it on the desktop. And it's just going to create the folder. So as you can see on my desktop, I have this zip folder and this MI 1099 NEC for the 1099s, and then this EFW2 that goes both to the ISSA and state of Michigan. MTO now also uses MI login, but you log in with your existing MTO account and not necessarily your MI login account. So, and then I launched the service, MTO. And then once you're on here, you can go down to your tax services, sales, youth, and withholding, which is the same place that you typically file your quarterly, your state of Michigan taxes. Um, Instead of under, there's additional services. If you go down to the far right-hand side, there's this W-2 and 1099 upload. And if you click on upload, you select the tax year, 2025, and then you can select your files, which if I go to my desktop, I'll want to click on that one, and then I'll click open, upload that, and then I'll click on the zip file open, and that should also work. So for the state of Michigan. And that's all you have to do. As far as I know, that is all you have to do for the state of Michigan. They do have a guide right here if you want to, if you're having some issues and you want to read through them, or you can always give us a call and we'll be happy to walk through some of that with you if you're having issues. But that is how you get into the state. So for the federal government, for the 1099s, you e-file returns with the IRS. So you just type in, usually I go IRS, IRIS for their IRS system. We also have a direct login to their taxpayer portal, but again, that's down, so it won't take me anywhere. So you're on their website. I can check their status. It still says it's down. So when it says it's unavailable, so we can't use it right now. You could also click on this one right here, sign in, and this will also take you directly to the portal. And then over here, they have their publications. And this first one here is one if you want to look at their guide, if you want more information on how to use their portal and different tips and tricks. You can go ahead and read through that. I have read through that. So that is it for the IRS. And now the last one is the SSA. Agree to other privacy statements. And then once you get here, you click on the report wages to Social Security. You click I accept. And then this is where you'll upload your files. So if I go to AccuWage Online, right here, I go to here, and I want to test my file. So I click Start Testing. I go to my desktop, and I find my 2025 EFW2. If you get this alert, all it's saying is a submitter EIN and the employer EIN match. That just means you're submitting this as yourself. A lot of times a third-party software will be submitting this for you. So it's saying that But if you intended to have them the same, then you should be all set and there's nothing more you have to do. But if you actually get errors, and I click on the error, I believe it's because they have a little indent over Nunez, which I'm surprised. But again, this is auto-generated data, so that is fascinating that they wouldn't take that little indent. So that's kind of cool. But if you don't have any errors, then if you just have the one alert, then you're all set to actually upload the files. So you go back here, you click on the, instead of AccuAge, you click on the upload, and then you click on the submitted a file. And then you click on the year and you click on the browse and select the file. So I'm not going to because that. And then again, if and it'll give you a confirmation that it was successfully uploaded, you could go ahead and print that page or take a screenshot. And that would be considered uploaded. And then once you want to check your submission status, there's a view submission status on I think any one of these tabs. Yep, receipt years 2026, and I want to see let's go last 15 days. And see, my status still says received, so that means they haven't accepted it, they have just received it yet. So that is it for your W-2s for the federal government. So I'm going to go ahead and log out. You want to click on yes. And then I want to close this window. So the process really hasn't changed much from this year to last year for the federal government. The state of Michigan is the only one that's changed. That you have to use the PDF zip to upload your W-2, your 1099s, but which actually it should be easier than just using the paper copy. So you don't have to worry about mailing them in then to the state.
Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. This is George. We have a couple things to cover. Basically, we're going to talk about getting the one big beautiful bill settings for everybody in the software. So if we go under payroll, the first thing we want to do is on any employee that is eligible for it, we need to set your, oh wait, am I in? Yeah. So we need to set your personnel. Why has he got this? Okay. OTC eligible is what it's called down here. If you don't have a check, we won't calculate the overtime premium. So we absolutely have to have that checked on any employee that that qualifies for the overtime premium. The next thing we want to set to make sure that it all works correctly is if we go into pay types. Under pay types, we have a new section here for the FSLA type that tells us what it is. So you can leave it blank for anything that isn't going to be there, but if it's overtime, the options are whether it's considered an FSLA earning or overtime. You can set it to none, but then none just basically makes it go away. So let me get back to overtime. Okay, so you need it on overtime and at least regular should be set to earnings. And then any other codes that you might be using, like you might have earnings for supervisor, or you might have a special overtime for supervisor overtime. So make sure that anything that's considered that you want to be considered as part of the overtime, or he is paid at a rate more than 1.5 or better. So you can always look at the payroll factor and see anything that's 1.5 or better. So that basically, once you have that set and you have the other two, the employee is set and the two types are set, then we can go ahead and when you calculate your W-2s, it will come up with people in the overtime. So let me just come in here to W-2 forms in 2025. It looks like I've already calculated. I'll recalculate. Takes a little longer to calculate now because of this one big beautiful bill. Takes quite a while to figure out even on my machine. It used to be really fast, but you need to be aware it might take a few more minutes than just instantaneous. So I got to go look at an employee. I think 37 is one. So if I just look at hers in box 14, I have qualified overtime premium of 1,201.30. So that basically is how it's going to show up on the 2025s. It'll be in box 14. If we want to run the reports, we can go to copy A and just quickly look at that as well. Yeah. And make that a little bit bigger. And you can see they'll see QOP and the dollar amount. So that's kind of what's there. Now, how we get that number has a lot to do with going through and verifying what's a valid payroll. So we made a report that helps you go through um, what we did. So let me see if I can bring up the report. So we're going to go ahead and run this report. And basically we need to know the tax year end date. So that will be, there we go. And you need to pick an employee number that we want to do it on. So we're going to do it on 19. We can't just, it takes a long time to run. We'll do the start date and we will go ahead and run this report. And it figures I picked somebody who doesn't have one. Okay. There we go. So when we're looking at Brian's activity for the year of what was paid, he has earnings in 2024. He had 40 hours during that week with 4 hours of overtime. So he qualified $58 of it qualified. So you can kind of run through here. You'll see for the work week how many regular hours they have. So in other words, for any overtime values, they have to have at least 40 hours of regular work time during the thing. So you'll see that going across here, how this kind of works out. And I don't know if he has any comp time that he's messed with. No, he just had a little bit more than one page, but the comp time here is just kind of show how many comp hours he did, how much he used, and then what was qualified out of it. And this comp time thing is quite complicated on how we work it. So, but you can kind of see here where how much basically the guy is earning. And then I don't know if we have a last page, if we do it totals or not. Nope. I think we just show the detail here just so you can get a report to see how much each time was, and you can argue then um, how many overtime hours were qualified and whatnot. Okay, so those are just the two pieces that we have for it. I want to make sure that everybody's understanding. It should be very accurate. It has to do also, we do have a setting in the main for setting a system-wide work week. Let's see where we have it. Organization, I believe, and accounting details. So right now, my work week starts on Sunday. If everybody is going to be Monday, starts on Monday to Sunday, then change that to Monday. But then if you have one employee that for some reason their work week is different, we have that now also as something part of in payroll employees. If I come in here and we look at, I believe it would be under employment. No, I think it was under personnel that we put the start work week. Yeah, work week start day. If they have if they need to override what they can set to, this one can be set to Tuesday for whatever reason, you'd have it something different for an employee. But if it's blank, it's just going to use the uh, galactic version, the galactic date. The other thing I don't know, I want to make sure that we want to do is we want to talk a little bit about a bug that we had, and that has to do if you're when you're ready to import your 2026 .m.RUM equipment questionnaire or equipment rental rates. The equipment rental rates is under equipment and equipment rental update, and your year it just shows a 2025. It's a simple thing to fix. I won't go over it here in the thing. You just call us. It will take us less than 1 minute. We can, as long as we can hook up remote to just, all it has to happen is on one machine. Not everybody's machine has to be fixed for it. So just one machine gets fixed and it'll be fine. So again, all we have to do is, connect and yeah, we have to delete an extra file got saved incorrectly. So we just have to delete that file and then 2026 will show up. Apologize for that. We just didn't aware it was going to cause an issue on the extra file being out there, but it is what it is. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to chat a little bit about is we are having a big change coming up in the next couple of weeks, or the next release actually. And I wanted to kind of give you just a preview. A lot of this will be, you'll see what we've been doing is we've been working with the system fonts on your computer. So if I go here, I go to settings. Let me drag that over in settings and I go to accessibility. You can set the font size to bigger font size in your computer. And we're going to start, we just put in the code so that we honor whatever font size you're set. So if you want to go when at 100%, it's going to be all our fonts are going to be the size of, like you see the word router or that, it's going to be 12 point. To get us, you got to go to 135. That takes you back to what ProFund is working at now, where we inadvertently inflated the font size, but then by doing that, we also didn't make it so you were able to configure it if you need to be. Because like me, I need to be generally at 150 because of my eyesight. So just to be aware that this is coming. So when you open it up one day and it's really small, you just have to go in and modify your font size so that everything is following correctly. Again, like here you see the word settings. We're following this size here, like this where you see home system. This is the font size that we're going to be following. Right now, we're inflated to this huge text size that we shouldn't be in our software. So if you go and look, like pull down items, that's way bigger than it needs to be. This is way smaller than it's supposed to be. So like I said, we've been readjusting everything that we are doing to be actually what your computer settings are set to on your desktop. But then if you change you change the computer settings, we honor what the new settings are going to be. So just be aware that it's the final step in getting us with our package that we selected from for help us build the screens and things to make it honor correctly with the system font. Also, one of the things that's coming up is we have completely redone the equipment menus. I don't know if this one is the new one. Nope, this is still the old. So we've completely redone the system settings. I think I can bring up. This is going to look a little weird, but I just kind of want to show you. Okay, this is like I'm saying the new font sizes and everything is going to be honoring it right here. But I just want to bring you to equipment to show, we've been working on equipment, so the new equipment will be like the old one. This is scheduled to be released, but we have a significant conversation we need to have with not the financial side, but the people who are using the preventive maintenance and equipment. And so we're going to be scheduling a Zoom meeting next week for everyone you want to attend. And please try to get your directors to attend this. The Zoom meeting will go out to, of course, our normal recipients for it, which is mostly the financial side. But make sure your equipment people try to attend this Zoom meeting because we want to share some things about what we've been discovering. We would like to try to make some changes at this point, but we want to make sure we get the buy-in of the people that are actually using ProFund Accounting's equipment. There's just a lot of nice things like preventive maintenance, there's just a whole lot of nice stuff that we've done to it, but there's a couple of issues we need to mess with. So anyways, this is kind of what's coming. Like you see, the font size is, smaller, but like if you make that text size to 136 or 135, then it will be pretty much exactly what you've seen already in ProFund Accounting that you're used to seeing. But if you don't need, if you like the smaller fonts or the regular font size, then this is basically, like I said, we're honoring what the Windows says. I'm just going to get out of that one so I can go back to what you guys are running right now. Okay, do we have any big questions? All right. Okay, we have another questions popping up. We have a question that says, why would you assume someone's tax status if something isn't entered? We just receive an error letting us know to get the form back from the employee and not assume their tax deductions.
That's a change we made here with calculation. If there's no W-4 entered, we assume single.
Yeah, federal government has issued that says when payroll is done, if there is absolutely nothing in there, if they have not submitted a W-4, or they're a brand new employee and you don't have the W-4, but you have a payroll, you have to assume single, no deductions. It's written in there. If you have a question to it, you can give us a call back after the webinar and I'll take you to the IRS, the tax documents that we have from the IRS that indicate that that's what we need to do. We have to have something. We have to calculate something. So we have to assume basically the largest, the single no deductions is the largest tax bracket. So we have to assume that right now. We can't, if there's nothing there, that's what we have to default it to.
You are now working smarter with ProFund Accounting. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.